So, we're in the third part. We're going into the third part of this marvelous book called Divine Audacity, written by Linda Martella Whitsett. And as I had mentioned to you last week, she has audacity in the context of spiritual boldness, spiritual bravery and courage, and the willingness to stand in the truth of who and what we really are, our divine nature, and to behold that in one another. This series is challenging us to be the light of the world, not to just talk about the light of the world, but to be it. And so I feel I'm still on that learning curve. There may be a day I look back at this morning and understand how I could have handled this situation differently. That's part of spiritual growth and evolution and growing in love with one another. But she says we have to be willing to step into it and to be it. And that the most effective way to do this is through the activation of our inherent divine nature, which consists of 12 spiritual powers. And first, understanding and awakening and becoming aware of these powers, and then learning how to express them in a spiritual way. And I was under the impression I was going to be able to do 2 powers a week, all gung-ho. Last week I said, I'm going to talk about faith and understanding, and I got through faith. And I want to thank Alfredo for recording that. He got it to me on Sunday. I didn't post it because I was a little bit out of control last week too. I don't know why you put up with me. I really don't, I was frustrated, I was judgmental, I was insensitive to some of the people in this community, and I was making remarks that I was not proud of. And so I wrote Alfredo an email. I said, I just can't post this. I can't post it on Facebook. Well, maybe I will. Maybe I'll forgive myself, allow myself to be human and post it, and apologize ahead of time to anyone that I might have insulted. So anyway, we're going to get through faith, because I was off on tangents just like I am this week. And so this week we're just going to focus on the power of understanding. I'm hoping to get back on track next week and attempt to do 2 powers a week, because this will not be a Lenten series if I don't do that. This will be a Lenten spring into summer series. So let's look at the power of understanding. Charles Fillmore gives us a definition in his book, Revealing Word, of the power of understanding. When he writes, spiritual understanding is the ability of the mind to apprehend and realize the laws of thought and the relation of ideas one to another. So he's already suggesting it's more than just intellectual thinking, yes? In the Hebrew scriptures, in the book of 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9, we hear a very wise man, his name was Solomon, he was the 3rd king of Israel, saying, give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I might discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this your great people? Have you ever asked yourself the question, what do I really want? What do I truly want? Have you ever asked yourself that? I'm talking about your deepest desires for the fulfillment of your life. Or are you just too busy doing, the 24/7? Well, if you have asked that question, have any of you not been satisfied with the answer? If you're not satisfied, I asked you to consider this morning maybe framing a different question. In the scripture that I just quoted about Solomon, here's a young man who actually was being asked to declare whatever his heart desired. He could have had anything he wanted. And yet, what did he ask for?
Wisdom.
An understanding mind. Wisdom. An understanding mind so he could govern his people. Boy, do you think I don't relate to him right now? I would like to have an understanding, spiritual understanding mind so I could better minister to this community. This is what he asked for. He didn't ask for a new space. He didn't ask for more money. He didn't ask for more wives and heat. Well, he didn't need them. He had something like 300 wives. He didn't. He's like, what? Yeah. He was the most prosperous individual in the Hebrew Scriptures in so many ways. Now, metaphysically interpreted, though, I want you to hear this. The people Solomon was governing represented his thoughts. It wasn't people out there. It was his thoughts. Remember what Genevieve said? Banish all fear from your consciousness. One of the things that I have to do is now go back and say, how much was fear motivating me in what I decided in relation to this individual? So it's a matter of governing thoughts. Our thoughts, we know, from looking at the power of faith, determine our life, determine our reality, determine our experience. So when Solomon asked for an understanding mind, he was asking for the ability to discern which thoughts he should be holding on to and which thoughts, what? He should be letting go. He was also asking which of his goals and dreams and aspirations were in alignment with his divine nature, and which of his pursuits could increase his awareness of that divine presence expressing as him. He was asking to understand, to spiritually understand. Now, just like the power of faith, Reverend Linda gives us 3 aspects of this power of understanding to bring us into a deeper expression and awareness and awakening to it. And the first is comprehension. That's the first aspect. I was asked to do a bullet point sheet on because each power has 3 aspects, and I just didn't have time this week, but it's in the book. Every book has a chapter with the 3 points outlined. So the first one for understanding is comprehension. In the Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore suggests that there were 2 ways to get understanding. One is by following the guidance of spirit that dwells within, and the other is to just go blindly ahead and learn by hard experience. I tend to be the latter. You? No. Sorry. But I understand through experience, through hard experiences, a lot of times in my life. My friends, in us there's a knowing capacity that is beyond intellectual knowledge. At one time or another, most of us have connected with this hidden wisdom, haven't we? And we've been amazed by the insight and revelations that it has brought to us. This knowing only comes when we allow our mind to align with divine mind. And how does this take place? What is the best way for this to take place? I know you know this. Meditation. Meditation through the practice of regular, dedicated, committed practice of meditation. Only in the silence can we truly comprehend the divine mind. So comprehension beyond intellectual understanding. The second thing that defines understanding is realization. I love realization. Reverend Linda writes, realization is either a flash of understanding or a gradual dawning of awareness. Whereas comprehension can be effortful. If you ever tried to practice meditation, does it take effort? You bet it does. Realization is effortless. It's effortless. There's nothing you have to do. Have you ever just said, oh, it just came to me, or suddenly I knew what it all meant? The flashbulb went off, you know? The aha experience. It was revealed to me. How often have you awakened in the middle of the night with a flash of knowledge or a clear revelation or an answer to a question? Or how many times have you read a billboard, right? And you felt those goosebumps raise on your arms. I call them God bumps. Because all of a sudden you know you're getting a confirmation for the current direction you're going in, and I'm not talking about in the car. Right? You're like, wow, that just affirmed what I was thinking. Reverend Linda writes, a mystical divine visitation, a sensed voice of God, a sudden absolute knowing, all relate to realization. Okay? Our innate ability to understand. Whereas comprehension engages our mind, what do you think realization engages? Our hearts. Which Charles Fillmore considered another brain. You know, if you've never taken the 4T Prosperity class by Stretton Smith, oh my goodness, he has a whole chapter on the intellect of the heart that is the best I have ever read on the subject or studied on the subject.
What is that name, sorry?
The 4T Prosperity Program by Stretton Smith.
Oh,
No, that's okay. I know when people are snoozing because all of a sudden I'll say something and they'll be like, huh? What? I'm kidding. I was snoozing.
sorry.
So Charles Fillmore considers the heart another brain, the heart being the center of the spirit of truth. In his book, The 12 Powers of Man, Charles Fillmore writes, in its beginning, this seemingly strange source of knowledge is often turned aside as a daydream. Again, it seems a distant voice, an echo of something that we have heard and forgotten. One should give attention to this unusual and usually faint whispering of spirit within. It is not of the intellect. It does not originate in the skull, he writes. It's the development of a greater capacity to know oneself. Isn't that incredible? I'm going to be teaching the 12 Powers of Man in about a month from now. The book by Charles Fillmore. Stay tuned. So it's the development of a greater capacity to know oneself, I forgot the last line, and to understand the purpose of creation. Realization. Pretty big. And the third and final thing that defines understanding is insight. This is getting to me today because, oh my goodness. Insight is our capacity to employ realization in particular circumstances. It's taking comprehension and realization and applying it in the circumstances in our lives. Having the insight to look beyond the appearance of something and to know the truth. I want to read an example from Linda's book on page 57. I can tell I'm a little sad today. What if in daily life we are accompanied by a film crew to whom we could signal at any time, stop, take two. I would love that. In the grocery store parking lot one day, I observed a woman move her bags from a cart into her car and then leave the cart next to her car as she drove away. My inner Girl Scout started twitching. My dutiful citizen persona reared its judgmental head. And I blasted this woman in my own mind for her selfish and rude behavior. Imagine if everyone left their carts anywhere they wanted in the parking lot. I bet you wouldn't be too happy to drive onto the lot and find no place to park, for the carts left like litter in the stalls. I'll show you what it means to be a good citizen. I'll take that cart and place it where you should have placed it, in the designated cart slot, blah. She writes. Stop. Take two. Activating my innate power of understanding, I sought to comprehend some of the benign reasons why someone would leave a grocery cart in a non-designated spot in the parking lot. I listened to my own life, remembering times when I was in an inordinate hurry, perhaps with an ill child waiting at home for medicine, where a few more footfalls would seem exhausting at the end of a long day, or when I was mentally fixated on a problem such that I was in a state of non-awareness. Had I ever disregarded the rules, or had I ever wanted to disregard the rules? My reverie led to a simple realization: compassion. It's the fruit of understanding. Compassion is the fruit of understanding. I could think, feel, and act with compassion. Insight led me to kindly take that cart into the store, free from judgmentalness and blame, grateful to have a car, and blessed